So let's do a quick wrap up of the guys that are probably getting lost to the franchise tag, and then let's talk where the strengths and weaknesses of this class lies.
Okay, because I wrote about that. Let's do that.
Perfect.
Chris Jones to the Chiefs.
Yes.
Good move. Do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're not going to let him go. He is, again, we've talked about this before. He's one of those players that is arguably the best interior lineman in the NFL, not named Aaron Donald. There's half a dozen guys that on any given year vie for that spot, with Donald perennially the number one guy. Chris Jones has as good a case as anybody of being that second best guy.
How about Bud Dupree, rumored to be franchised by the Steelers?
Oh, Bud.
I don't hate it as much. Look,
it's better than paying him long term.
That's the thing. Like, can we separate the fact that we just have a player where we're like, LOL, Bud Dupree, and look at it? So here's the thing. We say one-year wonder guys. There is a pretty good track record of guys who peaked. Olivier Vernon never got back to his peak. DeMarcus Lawrence got back to, like, these. There are guys who bloomed a little bit later. And if we're talking franchise tag and like, hey, steal another year of production out of Bud Dupree while we look for the next guy, it's not the worst thing in the world, except the Steelers right now, second lowest cap space in the NFL. Could that money be better spent somewhere else?
And the thing is, as good as Bud Dupree was this year, he wasn't that good. The second half of the season was a lot worse than the first half, and he didn't really maintain the crazy, hey, Bud Dupree's actually good now. Only sort of. Like,
he was pretty good. But there's something about system and comfort level and TJ Watt's emergence, and you don't need a great guy on the other side. You need somebody reasonable. The problem is there's a lot of money that you're throwing at him in 1 year, and I'm more comfortable doing this with teams like Tennessee, Denver, Washington, all these teams that have $50 million or more in cap space.
Yeah.
Where currently the Steelers are at 1.5.
Right. Honestly, if you have a ton of cap space, the franchise tag is not a bad way of spending money, period, right?
Agreed. Even if it's overpaid in a vacuum.
Just to keep a guy around on the roster, it's materially helping you in at least 1 year. And if you have the cap space to do it, then why the hell not? You're right. The Steelers don't have the cap space to do it, so it's a lot more questionable. The other thing is, as I say, Bud Dupree has been crappy every year other than last year. Like, it's literally not just a 1 year wonder, but the baseline before that 1 year was bad. It wasn't even just average or anonymous or not great. It was bad. He was not good at all. Then he became quite good for half a year. He became good for half a year and quite good for the other half, right? What do you do with that? Now, I wrote on PFF.com about basically every edge rusher in this class scares me in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
There's a red flag to all of them, even if the red flag is only he's good, but he's not as good as you're going to need to pay him in order to get him.
Right.
Clowney, right? If I was taking a run at one of those contract year wonder guys, it would not be Bud Dupree. It would be Eric Armstead because his baseline was a hell of a lot higher before.
Right. It wasn't completely out of nowhere.
And B, when he got good, he got really good. Like, his season this year was a hell of a lot better than Bud Dupree's was, and it lasted all year long.
So that makes I'm good with that.
So, okay, Dupree maybe. Dak Prescott we talked about. AJ Green.
So I think
do you buy the idea that Joe Burrow told him to do that?
It depends on, if he was like, hey, I would love to have AJ Green. I would love to throw with him. I would love to play with this guy.
That's not the way it was reported, though. It was more like Joe Burrow in meetings with the Bengals told them to keep him around. It's like, hey, if you guys are dragging my ass to Cincy, if I'm supposed to play there with the Skyline Chili, you need to do something for me, and that's keep that guy around.
If I was Joe Burrow, I would demand that Skyline Chili no longer be the halftime meal in the press box. But that doesn't affect him as directly as AJ Green.
He doesn't need that.
So I think from a Bengals point of view, there's a lot to unpack here. AJ Green, Bengals legend. They love locking up their own. They love having a guy that's a Bengal for life. They want to have Geno Atkins forever. They want to have AJ Green forever. That's one. Secondly, it seems like with the new CBA, the compensatory pick formula is going to be reworked just a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know if that takes place immediately for next year. So in theory, if they let Green walk, they could get something in return. If they wait a year after a franchise tag and let him walk, they might not get anything in return. So there's a little risk there. If you're worried about maybe stealing an extra third rounder, if you're thinking high level. And then you think about, okay, Joe Burrow and his development. If the goal is for Joe Burrow to be the best quarterback he could be by year 3 and to have the best team around him in year 3, because that's when we feel like we'll have a team around him and that's when he'll be thriving and all that stuff, then how much does AJ Green in 1 year actually matter?
Yeah, I'm kind of the opinion that why wouldn't you do it if you're the Bengals? Like at this point, we talked last year about how whoever the quarterback was in Cincinnati had no shot, right? Because their offensive line was garbage and they had nobody to throw to because everybody was hurt. Like at one point, all of the people on the field were called Tyler. And only one of them was Tyler Boyd, who's halfway useful. Like everything was just a mess.
You're name scouting. I don't know.
So
a lot of name scouting.
If you go into this season and all you've done is change Joe Burrow in for, Ryan Finley, like obviously that's a huge upgrade, but God, give the guy some help. Like you can't do it on his own. You still need to fix the offensive line. You still need to give him somebody other than a guy named Tyler to throw to. So bring AJ Green back, even if it's only for 1 year. Like the guy, AJ Green clearly wants out of here at this point, right? So fine. That's okay. On the other hand, if we let you walk, we're kind of screwed. So you're going to have to stay around for a year in the franchise tag.
Here's the other way of doing it, right? You know you're not going to be great. You help Burrow out weeks 5, but through 5, 6, 7 weeks.
And then trade deadline. That works.
Feed AJ left and right, and then say, okay, at worst we're going to get a third, right? For a 1 year rental.
There's no upside right now to just letting him leave. Right?
Unless it's a compensatory pick.
Yeah, but A, you don't even know what that's going to be.
But I'm okay.
That doesn't help right now.
I get it. Okay, so I'm fine with bringing AJ Green back if you're the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yes.
Shaq Barrett rumored to be going back to the Tampa Bay Bucks. Again, just separate this from our free agent analysis.
This is a process thing, right? So Bruce Arians has come out and he said Shaq Barrett's going nowhere. We're keeping him here. Even if it's a franchise tag, because he's the sack leader, and you just don't find those guys every day.
Just forget the words for a second, though.
No,
because the balance is
I won't forget the words.
If you're going to lock up Shaq Barrett for 4 years at $20 million a year, or whatever the number is, versus a 1 year franchise tag, those are two completely different things. One is really risky. One is like, all right, we got $80 million of cap space. Like, why not? Again, I'm okay with when you get it. He's a good player. Right?
Yeah.
We can separate the fact that Shaq Barrett's a good player who happened to have 20 sacks.
Yes.
Right? I'm okay with overpaying a good player for 1 year. And I think that's a lot different from saying, buyer beware, don't lock him up for 4 or 5 years because there's no way he's a 20-sack guy. That's 20-sack guy.
He's been a good player for the entirety of his career. He was no better of a good player last year than he was in any other season of his career. He just played all of the snaps and got a bunch of sacks because of that. The idea that he's a sack leader and you got to keep those guys around because you don't stumble into sack leaders every year. He won't be the sack leader next year and will probably never be the sack leader again. So using that as a descriptor for him is just bad process because that's not what he is fundamentally.
Well, it's not good in negotiations either.
That too.
It's not good to go out in the public and say, here's our sack leader. I know it's a fact and all that stuff, but here's a sack leader.
Though that doesn't matter if you're just planning on franchising him because it's just set in stone.
It is amazing,
you're not.
Even sitting in meetings, how much teams were like focused on NFL sack totals, because we do our own, and they're like, man, we need the right ones for negotiations and all that stuff. Like, really have to focus on those 5% of your
it's amazing.
pass rushes.
It's one of those numbers. It's like the worst number possible in terms of actually using it to do anything, and yet the NFL are obsessed with it. Whether it's using it in negotiations, using it for bonuses, using it to predict anything. It's awful. And yet they can't get it out of their heads. It's amazing.
Yannick Ngakoue.
That was
Jacksonville
great.
Jags.
Yannick Ngakoue is like, I'm done with Jacksonville. I'm out of here. And they're like, the Jacksonville Jaguars are expected to use the franchise tag on Yannick Ngakoue.
Do you think the franchise tag is as much of a slap in the face as players make it?
When that happens, yes. Generally, no. Like if the Bengals come out and say, sorry, AJ, we can't let you go. We need you. We're using the franchise tag. Unlucky. It's not a slap in the face. It's like, crap, I was hoping to get out of here, and now I'm stuck here. On the upside, I have whatever it is, like $18 million to play with next year.
I mean,
that's fine, right? If it's the Ngakoue way, maybe. It's like, I'm sick of this organization. I am out of here. Bye-bye. And they're like, franchise tag.
Well, but I think he was saying that because he knew they were going to franchise tag him.
The way it was reported, it happened the other way around. It was like, Ngakoue comes out and says, see ya, I'm leaving. And then it's like, Jacksonville will exercise the franchise tag rights on Ngakoue.
So we usually only focus on this through the team's lens. So from a team lens, I'm like, again, it's a 1 year. I don't want to lock up Yannick long-term either. So.
I don't think it should. The idea that people should be insulted by the franchise tag, which is ultimately, the franchise tag pays you what? The average of the top 5 guys at your position, right?
Which is a ton of money. It's a ton of guaranteed money for 1 year. So it's a lot of guys making $15 to $25 million a year.
So yes, you would like the ability to hit the open market and get yourself a long-term deal with the giant guaranteed money that comes with. On the other hand, being paid the guaranteed sum of the top 5 average at your position for 1 year is a pretty damn nice place to be. So if you can really shouldn't be that insulted.
If you can look at it through the lens of, okay, this whole like you're going to be set for life. These are all, you can't compare it to like
sure
Joe in accounting, right? It's not the same.
And even for a guy like Kirk Cousins, I mean, Kirk Cousins may end his career as one of the best sort of maximized dollar amounts of any player ever.
Yeah, because he made top 5 money.
Right.
Top 5 money. Then signed 3 years guaranteed
to hit the open market again, and then he'll have the next open market deal on top of that. So a lot like Revis, like honestly, maybe the best thing Revis ever did was maximize dollar amounts throughout his contract, as well as being one of the greatest cornerbacks ever. Like Kirk Cousins is doing the same kind of thing at quarterback. So the franchise tag for him actually worked out great. Now, okay, it comes with the caveat that if you get injured in that year, it derails everything. But, unlucky. That can happen at any point. Like, you're no less screwed if you get a massive catastrophic injury after the big contract. You just had the guaranteed money. And ultimately, so this is obviously, how many injuries these days are genuine career defining, right? You tear an ACL, you're back next year. You tear an Achilles now, okay. Brandon Brooks tore an Achilles, came back and played it better than he'd ever played before, won the Bruce Matthews Award for the best offensive lineman in the NFL. Emanuel Sanders was over 30 when he tore his Achilles. He's back like it never happened. Richard Sherman, okay, it took him a year to get back to his best, but he's now as good as any cornerback in the NFL coming off an Achilles.
Now injuries don't matter too.
I'm not saying they don't matter. I'm just saying the fear is, okay, I get injured and now my career is done and I didn't get the giant contract, right? How many times is that actually a thing anymore? Devastating injuries that end careers. I mean, when was the last time that happened? Culpepper? And even that didn't end his career. He came back.
We thought Bridgewater maybe.
But Bridgewater's knee. Bridgewater almost lost his leg and is back now looking like a starting quarterback. That's what I'm saying. Like, when is the last knee injury? When is the last injury period that completely ended a career randomly in the middle of going?
I don't know, Sam.
It's a long time ago is what I'm saying. So the idea that the fear for why we need the long-term deal versus the single-year franchise tag guaranteed money, I think is outdated. I don't think it's necessarily a factor anymore.
Tennessee Titans. So there are people saying there's as many as 12 franchise tags that might be used. I'm struggling to find
12.
We just listed 6, and now I'm going to list the Tennessee Titans and say, are they actually going to debate between Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill? And I was saying to you off air, I was like, if they're really going to pursue Brady hard and they're going to get, like, if they franchise Derrick Henry again, if it's like one more year, if we're going to run this guy into the ground and we're not attached to him long term, not the worst thing in the world to just continue, running back or not, he's still a weapon that you're surrounding the potential 43-year-old quarterback. Or if you're going to lock up Ryan Tannehill, you're going to keep that same ecosystem around him and try to duplicate the magic. I don't hate, like, again, it's like, it's less risky than locking up Derrick Henry long term, and I don't mind overpaying for 1 year, unless you know that money can be spent somewhere else to replace a Logan Ryan at corner, to replace other more valuable positions. I don't hate the 1 year overspend, even if it is a running back.
I do.
You hate it.
I don't think you should ever pay that kind of money for a running back. It's just, why would you? I mean, pay Derrick Henry 1 year, top 5 money, or draft Derrick Henry again in the 3rd round this year. I mean, who cares? It's not going to matter. If the environment around Derrick Henry collapses, he won't justify the money. And if it doesn't collapse, somebody else would achieve the same production in his stead without the money.
The alternative, of course, is you let him walk. You grab potentially a 3rd round compensatory pick. I mean, I mentioned this a few weeks ago.
Spend the pick.
Yeah.
They pick on a running back. So, like,
I mentioned that a few weeks ago. Are there positions that you can exploit, right? Knowing that the league's going to overvalue them.
Another one that's potentially.
Judon is rumored to be in the franchise tag.
Now, the complicating factor in all this is how many of these are franchise tagged to be kept around and how many of these are being franchise tagged to potentially trade onwards. So
those trades are so rare. They're
right,
just
but you
rare.
sketched out this genius scenario whereby the Ravens could essentially manufacture a pass rusher every year and then ship them on, right? And
right.
Profit, right? Create this thing and then profit off trading them on. Then it's like Baltimore plans on franchise tagging Matthew Judon. It's like, oh man, they're not that smart at all. But if they're franchise tagging him to trade him on, same deal, same idea.
But the balance would be, it's, again, if you steal a year out of a guy and you can afford it, then you're sitting here a year from now, it's like, okay, we're not going to franchise him again. We stole the extra year. Now he walks, and now we still maybe get a pick back or whatever it might be. So you could still, it's still like, it's not like they're idiots.
No,
I'm
just saying that it wasn't, it looked like they might have been exercising your master plan. And
I know, they may have been.
Plan of franchise tagging him.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.